My friends, let me begin by telling you something wonderfully simple, yet unimaginably powerful. Gratitude is not merely a polite gesture. It is a creative force, a spiritual technology, a vibration that alters the very fabric of your reality. Most people go through life believing gratitude is reserved only for moments when life rewards them, moments when the visible world hands them something desirable. But the mystic, the awakened soul, the one who understands the hidden law of consciousness, this one gives thanks before the blessing appears. The mystic knows that gratitude is not a reaction, it is a cause. It is the key that unlocks the storehouse of unseen blessings, the invisible treasury where every answered prayer already exists in potential form. When you thank life ahead of time, you are not being naive. You are aligning yourself with the creative current of the universe. You are knocking on a door that opens only from the inside. And in that very act of preemptive thanksgiving, that invisible door begins to move, begins to loosen, begins to swing open. Gratitude whispers to life, I recognize what is coming. I trust what is forming. I honor the unseen. And life responds. In my teachings, I've always said that consciousness is the only reality, the primal substance from which every experience, every circumstance, every manifestation arises. Gratitude, when felt deeply, not spoken mechanically, but felt in the chest, the heart, the inner being, becomes a shift in consciousness. It is a movement from one state to another, from scarcity to abundance, from fear to serenity, from separation to unity, from waiting to receiving. Most people are trapped in a state of longing, always asking, always hoping, always reaching for what seems distant. But gratitude moves you instantly into the state of fulfillment. When you feel thankful for what has not yet appeared in the physical world, you are declaring with confidence, it is already mine. You are claiming your inheritance, not with force, but with quiet spiritual certainty. Gratitude turns desire into possession. It turns imagination into experience. It rearranges your inner atmosphere so profoundly that the outer world must eventually reflect what you have accepted as true within yourself. Gratitude is not an emotion tied to circumstance. It is an inner decision, a deliberate act of consciousness, a spiritual stance. It is the choice to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, regardless of what your physical eyes show you. The moment you say thank you, sincerely and without hesitation, you place yourself in the vibrational state where your desire already exists. Gratitude is the bridge between imagination and reality, between the invisible and the visible. And remember, my friends, it is always your state of consciousness that determines your world. You do not get what you want. You get what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of lack, you will live in lack. If you are conscious of abundance, you will attract abundance. Gratitude locks you into the frequency of fulfilled desire. It stabilizes the feeling of already having, of already being, of already becoming. It is not merely positive thinking, it is the embodiment of the end state. The grateful person walks as if the blessing has already arrived, and eventually the world must mirror that inner acceptance. Many people pray, but they do not give thanks. They ask, but they do not assume. They hope, but they do not believe. Gratitude is belief in motion, faith made visible through feeling. It is the spiritual posture of someone who knows the prayer is already answered, long before the evidence appears. When you say thank you before you see the miracle, you are not trying to convince yourself. You are acknowledging the creative power within you. You are telling the universe, I trust the process. I trust the law. I trust the God within. Gratitude seals the prayer. It transforms asking into receiving. Without gratitude, prayer remains a request floating in the realm of possibility. With gratitude, prayer becomes a decree, a proclamation that the desired state is already established in consciousness. Gratitude is the divine signature at the end of your inner petition. It is the act that moves you from supplication to realization. It shifts you from the energy of wanting to the energy of possessing, and in the spiritual world, possession is the only thing that matters. I want you to picture a seed planted in soil. The seed is not visible. It lies hidden beneath the ground, where eyes cannot reach. Yet the gardener tends to it with unwavering trust. He waters it, nurtures it, protects it, long before he sees even the faintest sign of growth. Gratitude is that watering. Each thankful thought nourishes the invisible, strengthens the unseen, and prepares the inner creation to break through into the outer world. Without the gardener's trust, the seed would be neglected. Without gratitude, the desire is abandoned. Gratitude is the care you give to what you have conceived in imagination. It is the acknowledgement that the unseen process is just as real as the visible result. The gardener does not dig up the soil every day to check whether the seed is growing. He knows growth is happening in the hidden. Likewise, you must learn to trust the unseen workings of your imagination. Gratitude supports the process. It ensures that what was planted internally will eventually manifest externally, just as surely as a seed becomes a tree. The greatest mistake is to believe you must wait for evidence before you feel grateful. No, my friends, evidence always comes after. Your inner feeling creates the outer fact, not the other way around. Those who wait for something to appear before giving thanks will wait endlessly, for they remain in the state of lack, the state of longing, the state of doubt. Gratitude reverses the order of manifestation. It says, I will feel the reality inwardly so that it may appear outwardly. Gratitude is the internal cause of the external effect. When you feel grateful for something before it shows up in your world, you activate the law of assumption at the deepest level. You are telling the universe, I am already in possession of this. I recognize it. I claim it. I accept it as mine. And because consciousness is the only creative force, the outer world must eventually conform to your inner conviction. Gratitude is not wishful thinking. It is spiritual causation. When you practice gratitude, you are not pretending. You are not deluding yourself or ignoring reality. You are aligning with truth, the deeper truth that everything you desire already exists in imagination, the only place where creation truly begins. Feel thankful for that inner reality, for imagination is the foundation of all manifestation. What exists in imagination is not unreal, it is simply unborn. Gratitude speeds the birth. It signals your acceptance. It tells the creative power within, you may now bring this into form. Gratitude becomes the magnetic field that draws the imagined into the material. Life must rearrange itself to reflect the conviction you hold in consciousness. When you give thanks, you are stepping into the version of yourself who has already received. You are merging with the fulfilled state. The world around you, being only a mirror, has no choice but to reflect that inner shift. Gratitude is the recognition that inner creation is complete, and outer manifestation is merely the unfolding of what already is. Many of you may think gratitude is passive, something gentle, something soft, something done quietly in the privacy of your own mind. But gratitude is one of the most active forces in the spiritual universe. It vibrates, it calls, it summons, it sends out a signal that rearranges the fabric of your experiences. When you are grateful, you are not merely feeling good. You are declaring your alignment with abundance. You are signaling to the unseen world that you recognize the blessing even before it materializes. What you are grateful for grows. What you appreciate expands. And what you continually ignore begins to fade from your life. This is why gratitude is powerful. It not only attracts but sustains what it brings. It is the energy that maintains the flow of good into your life. When gratitude becomes a habitual inner environment, you will notice that life becomes more cooperative, opportunities multiply, and areas that once felt stagnant begin to open up. Gratitude is not passive, it is magnetic. It is a force that shapes the course of your destiny with precision and grace. I once said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue in that assumption. That statement is the very essence of conscious creation. Gratitude is the emotional atmosphere of someone who has already received the desire, someone who is living from the fulfillment rather than toward it. If you wanted to manifest love, wealth, healing, or new opportunities, the first question you must ask yourself is, how would I feel if it were already done? That feeling, warm, relieved, joyful, settled, is gratitude. It is the sensation of possession, the inner confirmation that the desire is no longer distant but present. Gratitude acts as the emotional blueprint that the universe follows. When you maintain that state, you stabilize the end result within your consciousness. Gratitude keeps you anchored in the version of yourself who already has the thing you seek. Manifestation then becomes the natural outpicturing of your inner assumption. Gratitude is not a response to receiving. It is the fuel that ensures you do. Gratitude dissolves resistance. It melts away fear, quiets worry, and silences doubt. When you say thank you, you cannot simultaneously hold the vibration of anxiety or fear, because the heart cannot serve two masters. Gratitude gently unseats the old state, those thoughts of limitation, those feelings of unworthiness, those memories that still whisper of lack, and replaces them with a higher, more harmonious one. Gratitude is like opening a window in a dark room and letting light pour in. It does not fight the darkness, it simply replaces it. When you lean into gratitude, your entire internal environment changes. The nervous system relaxes, the mind becomes clearer, the imagination becomes more responsive. Suddenly, ideas flow more easily, and solutions that once felt impossible begin to reveal themselves. Gratitude is not merely an emotion, it is a shift in identity. It transitions you from the version of yourself that doubted into the version that expects good, welcomes good, and allows good. And once you become that version inwardly, the outer world must reorganize to reflect who you have become. Some of you have struggled with circumstances that feel heavy, immovable, or resistant to change. Perhaps you've been praying, trying, pushing, and still see little progress. But hear me clearly, nothing changes until you change your inner state. And gratitude is the simplest, most immediate way to lift that state. Even a single breath of genuine thankfulness, just one sincere moment where you acknowledge something good, even something small, can begin to break the chains of old patterns. Gratitude does not require a perfect life. It requires a willing heart. It is the internal key that unlocks the doors that external force cannot move. When you practice gratitude, you rise above the level of the problem and enter the level of the solution. You recalibrate your inner energy to match a different outcome. Even in moments of difficulty, gratitude can soften your emotional landscape long enough for inspiration to enter. And once inspiration enters, movement begins. Gratitude is the first step toward transformation, the spark that lights the fire of change. Remember the words of Scripture, "To he who has, more will be given." This is not a moral statement. It is not about fairness or favoritism. It is a statement of consciousness, a spiritual law disguised in simple language. He who has the feeling of abundance, the feeling of gratitude, the feeling of possession, receives more. Why? Because his inner state is aligned with having. He radiates the vibration of someone who already owns, already experiences, already enjoys the blessing. But he who has not, who holds the feeling of lack, fear, resentment, or deficiency, loses even the little he believes he has, not because life is cruel, but because consciousness cannot contradict itself. A state of lack can only produce more lack. A state of gratitude can only multiply what is held within it. Gratitude is the demonstration that you have, even before the physical proof appears. And the universe responds by delivering more to the one who embodies the state of having. Consciousness is the distributor. Gratitude is the signal it recognizes. Gratitude is the demonstration that you have. It is the internal announcement that the desire is already fulfilled. When you feel thankful, you proclaim, not to others, but to yourself and to the unseen intelligence within you, I possess the thing I desire. And because consciousness is the creative force, that which you consistently feel becomes the form you live. Gratitude is like holding the energetic version of your blessing in your hands before it materializes. It is the substance of things hoped for made emotionally real. When you practice gratitude, you stop chasing outcomes and begin embodying them. You stop striving and begin receiving. This feeling of possession alters your decisions, your behavior, your expectations. It sets you on a path aligned with the reality you have accepted within. Gratitude is not merely thankfulness, it is ownership. And ownership is the true beginning of manifestation. The world does not deliver to those who want. It delivers to those who feel they already have. If you could see what happens in the unseen when you hold a grateful state, you would never again allow a single day to pass without practicing it. Gratitude rearranges your inner world first. And once the inner world is shifted, imagination responds with clarity and direction. The outer world has no choice but to obey. Gratitude sets forces in motion that your physical senses cannot yet perceive. It aligns you with people, opportunities, and events that match your elevated state. It opens pathways that were previously blocked, and it dissolves conditions that seemed immovable. Gratitude is a spiritual command, a signal that the creative process is complete within you. And once creation is finished internally, manifestation externally becomes inevitable. If the veil could be lifted for a moment, you would witness how gratitude activates unseen currents, how it sends ripples through the fabric of reality, how it summons outcomes that the logical mind cannot comprehend. Gratitude is the secret activity behind every visible blessing. Let us take something simple. Imagine receiving wonderful news, something you deeply desire. Before the message arrives, close your eyes, feel the joy swelling in your chest, feel the relief washing over your mind, feel the excitement rising in your heart, and then say, thank you, Father. This gratitude is not a ritual, it is a frequency. It sends out a signal far more powerful than any spoken request. Gratitude communicates certainty, confidence, assurance. It tells the universe the matter is settled. And when the universe receives that signal, it begins moving conditions, people, and events toward the fulfillment of your inner state. Gratitude is the emotional equivalent of having received the news already. It is the bridge between desire and realization. When you practice this consistently, life begins to mirror those inner feelings in astonishing ways. The good news, once imagined with gratitude, eventually becomes the good news you physically receive. Those who live in gratitude live as creators, not beggars. A beggar asks and waits, hoping life will someday be kind enough to grant a small portion of what is desired. But a creator thanks and receives. A creator understands the inner law, the divine mechanism by which consciousness shapes reality. Gratitude is the mark of one who knows their own spiritual authority. It is the posture of certainty, not desperation. When you give thanks before the manifestation appears, You are moving through the world as a co-creator, not a petitioner. You are acting from the end, not toward it. This distinction is enormous. Beggars hope for change, but creators command change. Beggars ask for permission. Creators accept their inheritance. Gratitude shifts you into this higher identity, where your desires are not distant possibilities, but inevitable outcomes. It rewires your emotional state so deeply that your outer world must eventually mirror it. To live in gratitude is to walk with quiet power, to move with spiritual confidence, and to operate from a consciousness where blessings are not chased, they are expected. When I taught the law, I did not teach it theoretically or philosophically. I taught it through experience, through the inner journey of imagination. Everything I manifested in my life came through assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and I never ended a prayer without giving thanks. That final act of gratitude sealed the state. It was my way of saying, this is done. I have received. Without gratitude, a prayer remains open, unfinished, lingering in the realm of asking rather than receiving. Gratitude completes the cycle of creation. It converts imagination into certainty. It transforms desire into possession. When you conclude your inner work with thanksgiving, you are stepping into the identity of the one who has already attained the blessing. You shift from longing to fulfillment, from effort to acceptance, from wishing to knowing. Gratitude was my anchor, my assurance, my inner confirmation that the unseen was already moving. And as always, the outer world eventually reflected what gratitude had already claimed within. So I ask you, what are you grateful for right now? Not what life has given you, what life is preparing to give you. Can you feel the gratitude for the money on its way? Can you feel thankful for the relationships that are forming even now in the unseen? Can you sense the healing that is unfolding, the opportunities that are approaching, the doors that are preparing to open? Gratitude invites you into the future version of yourself, the version that has already received. It allows you to access blessings ahead of time, to taste the sweetness of fulfillment before it touches the physical world. Gratitude is not about reminiscing on past gifts. It is about embracing future blessings before they materialize. It trains your consciousness to live from abundance rather than hope, from certainty rather than longing. When you thank life for what is coming, you accelerate its arrival. You collapse the distance between desire and manifestation. You become the vessel through which the unseen becomes seen. The more you practice this, the more your world becomes responsive. Life begins to take on a magical rhythm, a harmony that feels almost orchestrated. Events align in ways you could not predict. People appear at the perfect moment. Circumstances shift with uncanny precision. This is not coincidence. It is the promised result of living from the end. When gratitude becomes your natural state, your life begins to operate according to a higher order. You will notice synchronicities, unexpected blessings, effortless opportunities. Doors that were once locked begin to open without force. Problems dissolve without struggle. Gratitude creates a relationship between you and the universe in which life mirrors your inner acceptance. You become magnetically aligned with the outcomes you have assumed. This is why gratitude is transformative. It synchronizes your internal world with the external. It draws to you the experiences that match your elevated emotional state. Life becomes less about effort and more about alignment. Less about striving and more about receiving. Gratitude is the echo of future blessings calling back to you. It is the sound of answered prayers reverberating through your consciousness. When you feel deeply grateful, you are already in possession of the thing you desire. You are touching the completed version of your reality, and everything in your world must adjust to reflect that inner truth. Gratitude is not merely a feeling, it is a frequency that communicates with the unseen. It signals that the blessing has already been accepted within your imagination and therefore must appear in your physical experience. Gratitude collapses time. It brings the future into the present. It turns hope into realization and anticipation into embodiment. When you cultivate this state, you become a magnet for outcomes that match the vibration of fulfillment. You attract what aligns with the emotional reality you carry. And the emotional reality you carry is the blueprint the universe must follow. Gratitude is the whisper of your fulfilled self, speaking into your current moment. Never underestimate a moment of gratitude. It is stronger than effort, stronger than struggle, stronger than willpower. Effort can exhaust you, struggle can weaken you, and willpower can waver. But gratitude elevates you effortlessly. You attract by becoming. And gratitude helps you become the person for whom the blessing is natural. When you embody gratitude, you align with the version of yourself who already has peace, abundance, love, stability, and purpose. You shift from chasing to attracting. You move from force to flow. Gratitude changes you from the inside out, and once you are changed, your world must follow. Even a single moment of sincere gratitude can recalibrate your entire day, your mood, your decisions, and your expectations. It invites divine alignment, inner clarity, and calm assurance. Gratitude is not small. It is not weak. It is not optional. It is one of the most powerful tools you possess for transforming your consciousness and reshaping your reality. My friends, practice gratitude as a daily ritual, not for what is, but for what is becoming. Feel thankful. Assume the wish fulfilled. Trust the divine imagination within you. When gratitude becomes your inner climate, your spiritual atmosphere, you align yourself with the creative power that shapes all things. As you do, the world will open its doors to you. Opportunities will come not by chance, but by alignment. Doors will open not by force, but by resonance. You will discover the secret I have always taught: what you feel is real becomes your reality. Gratitude transforms feelings into facts, thoughts into experiences, imagination into manifestation. Be grateful and you will attract more. Be grateful and you will rise higher. Be grateful and you will witness the unseen becoming seen. Gratitude is not a practice, it is a path. And whoever walks this path walks with the creative power of God moving through them, guiding them, and revealing blessings that exceed all expectation.